All right, here we go. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another post game here on Ranger Central. Busy sports day for me. Very busy sports day, but got a win from all my teams, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, we're here to talk some Rangers hockey. I apologize for it being so late. The Mets are in a pennant race, and I do apologize in advance that it's probably going to be this way for a bit, at least until the Mets season is wrapped up, which hopefully is not for a while for my sake. But, of course, in the event that does happen, I do want to apologize in advance for nights like this where the post games will be a bit later, because for right now, they are the priority, especially over preseason. But I still watched as much of this game as possible. I pretty much watched all of it, because once the Met game was on, I threw this on the iPad. They got demoted to the iPad, I should say. The Mets were on the TV, so I was able still to keep up. And yeah, what a game for a couple of different individuals today, which is really what we're going to talk about, because I could break this thing down, period by period and everything like I typically do throughout the season to get myself in game shape, which probably would be the smart thing to do, but I'm not going to do that because last year at the preseason, I think I learned my lesson quite a bit. And that lesson was to take it very lightly, because there's, of course, players tonight that we're going to talk about that will make the team that didn't look great today. There are some that did. There are some rookies that look great today, and then there are some that didn't. So we're going to dive into all of it. Be sure to leave a like here on the stream, though, if you do enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Ranger fans, as we got a long season ahead. It feels like just yesterday we were here talking about the loss to the Florida Panthers, but here we are yet again. And turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live. But let's talk about this game, because there's a lot to dissect here with this one. It really is, because the first period, first of all, you had the new graphics for MSG, which I know that I don't like to get into this sort of stuff. I want to just focus on the game, but it is preseason, so it is what it is. The new graphics for MSG, I approve, but can we please get a shot counter up there, dude? Like, it's 2024. Come on. But yeah, I wanted to mention that. And on top of that, Joe Micheletti in mid-season form talking about how Kakko and Chytil played together in Hartford, which I don't know how he made that mess up twice, considering they never played in Hartford together. But regardless, let's talk about this game, because, again, there's a lot to get into. And I wrote a list on Twitter after each period of who I thought stood out and who I thought disappointed in each period. And then in the first period, I also included a noticeable at times tab, because the first period's where I was really locked in the most, to be honest with you. But yeah, the first period standouts. What I gathered from that, I thought Louis Domingue was great. Anton Bleed was flying up and down the ice. Will Cooley looked good. Filip Chytil, which we will talk about Filip Chytil. Victor Mancini, which we will talk about Victor Mancini. And then Brendan Othmann and Braden Schneider, I thought all had excellent first periods, which in terms of the line combinations, if we're going to get into that, which I should have had ready to go with me, even though I remember a bit of it off the top of my head. We had a line that we're probably going to see in the regular season, which makes sense why they were playing together, which is Cooley, Chytil, and Kakko. That was your first line for tonight. Othmann, Brodzinski, Vesey was the second line. Sikora, Grohl, Belzile as the third line. And then Shamar, Lecision, and Bleed were the fourth line. I still cannot say his last name right, I'm going to be honest with you. And then we got the D pairs, Scanlon and Schneider, which did surprise me, because I thought they were going to pair Schneider with either Mackey because of the experience there, or Robertson because of the fact that Robertson has been playing with Schneider in previous seasons, especially in preseason, of course. But that was not the case. We saw Scanlon, Schneider, Mackey, Fitzgerald, Robertson, Mancini. Those were your D pairs. But yeah, in that first period, was Victor Mancini sick or what? That I have never seen somebody just come out of nowhere in the pipeline. Like, honestly, I can't remember the last time someone in the pipeline came out of nowhere to this degree and just looks comfortable, like completely comfortable. A fifth round pick we're talking about here. And I was high on Victor Mancini to begin with. I went over this with the rookie games because he was popping out then too. I was mentioning then that Victor Mancini was probably my favorite defensive prospect, honestly, until they drafted EJ Emery. I thought Victor Mancini was their best prospect. And I'm like, I have hopes for Mancini, but I don't know if he's going to be anything great. But I mean, if this is what he's going to be, he's a guy that could push for the NHL roster this season at times. And that's not even an exaggeration. Do I think he's going to do it? Probably not, unless he goes nuclear the rest of the preseason, which, hey, you can't rule it out. But he looked unbelievable, getting a goal in that first period as well. And he just looked so comfortable. For a guy his size, I am so impressed with the way that this kid skates. And then on top of that, not afraid to jump up in the offensive zone. Love that, because this blue line lacks that. And they even let him quarterback the top power play unit, which I really liked. But he was skating well. He was so composed with the puck too, which was really nice to see from a kid who's 22 years old. And this is his first preseason, first, games in pro hockey. And he just looked so composed with moving the puck up the ice. Looked like the moment just didn't faze him. And again, I know it's preseason, but still, I mean, again, for his first set of pro games here, outside of a couple of games in Hartford last year, he looked so good. Like, just completely composed, broke the puck out well, which we could only dream of that on the NHL roster. But yeah, that goal they scored too was just absolutely freaking beautiful, and a nice feed by Anton Bleed as well, which I highlighted him as one of the guys I thought stood out. I thought Anton Bleed was unbelievable in that first period. He was flying all over the ice, moving his, throwing the body a lot in that first period. And on top of that, he was doing a very good job in the defensive zone, breaking up a lot of passes, breaking up a lot of plays. I thought he was all over the ice. And the same kind of goes for Othman in that similar sort of way, because Othman was playing mean tonight. Him and Bleed both played mean. I would like to see Othman bring a little more of an offensive edge, or at least that's what I thought in the first period, which that thankfully progressed as the game went along. But Brendan Othman was playing mean. Braden Schneider, I don't want to go too into detail with, the NHL guys, because we kind of know how they are, and Schneider should be standing out in these games, but he looked great in that first period. Philip Chytil, I'll get to him in a minute, because Philip Chytil is probably the best to talk about of them all. Will Cooley, I thought he looked good in the first period. Didn't look out of place from what we saw from him last season, which is good, because there are guys that are fighting for roster spots this year. And if Will Cooley has a bad camp or anything, and he was getting scratched late in the season at times, so if there's a chance for a roster spot to open up, it could be his. So good to see him look comfortable. And then Louis Domingue, who was under siege a lot in that first period, I thought he looked good and made a couple of quality saves. Because then we get to the shit list, and I will move back to Philip Chytil later on, because again, I'm going to rave about this kid a lot, but I say this kid as if he's like a prospect. But we get to the shit list where there's a common denominator here. I had Casey Fitzgerald, Matthew Robertson, and Connor Mackey on my shit list, because those guys were brutal. The first goal, yikes, the first goal with Connor Mackey, it was a rebound goal in front. I don't know where he was going on that play. He was lost, but it left a wide open rebound for Kopech to score, and then that ended up opening the scoring as well. And, it's vintage Rangers, right? Getting scored on the first 2 minutes. We're back officially. Fitzgerald, I thought he was rough. Robertson, thought he was rough. And then the noticeable at times list, I had Scanlon, which I thought he had a couple of solid plays in the first period. Kakko, thought he had a couple of decent plays. Like, there was a couple of plays in the neutral zone where I thought he stood out, which is kind of the norm from him. Johnny Brodzinski, thought he had a couple of solid plays. Sikora, couple of good plays. And then Grohl, I thought, also had a couple of decent plays. So that was my takeaway with the first period. And in the first period, by the way, Philip Chytil, that goal that he ripped, and the Selly too, you could tell that meant something to the kid. You could tell that meant something to a guy that, I mean, we know the story. He only played a couple games last season with the concussion, and only got into a couple of postseason games too, and didn't look himself in those postseason games at all, because he was afraid to take contact and everything. If Philip Chytil, and this is why I am worried, I already did my Mets post game, but this is why I'm worried with Chytil, because of the injuries. Because if he's not hurt, you saw nights like tonight, and I know it's the preseason, I shouldn't get too carried away. The guy has a chance to be a legitimate game changer for this lineup. I tweeted out earlier what I wanted my line combinations to potentially be going into the season, of course, before we look at what happens this preseason, which things could shape up. But I put Filipino on the second line. I put Mika Zibanejad on the third line. A lot of people are like, why are you putting Mika on the third line? That is so stupid. And I know it's not going to happen. I want to make it very clear. I am well aware that there is no world where Mika Zibanejad will be on the third line. But I just think Filipino brings so much more offensively, and I just think the dynamic there would be so much better. And that rip on the power play too, and you have Victor Mancini quarterbacking it, Will Cooley there, setting him up. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it made me feel a certain type of way. I'm not going to lie. It made me feel, it gave me the goosebumps watching Filipino score. It really did. But fast forward now to the second period. Mancini, I tweeted this out during the second period, and I still stand by this. Mancini is getting himself high on the depth chart, or he's getting high on the depth chart because of himself and because the rest of the depth looked brutal. That second period for the Rangers was really, really bad, and the noticeable list shrunk a lot because it shrunk down to Filipino, Mancini, Cooley, and then Garon, who stepped into the game, and he was under siege a lot in that second period because, man, were the Rangers bad defensively in that period, and it looked same old. Really did. But Fitzgerald, Robertson, Mackey, Scanlon were on my shit list for that period. Is there a coincidence there? I don't know. But that goal as well in the second period against, I mean, I got to tell you right now that I don't know at this point what to say about the defensive depth. Like, it's gonna, like, we have to pray that the Rangers don't have to reach far in the prospect pool this year for defensemen, because this was not a good showing at all for defensemen. And thank goodness they extended Chad Ruedel, because after tonight, and I know it's the preseason, I don't want to overreact too much, but it is alarming how these guys looked pretty rough thus far. But again, the second period, those were your only highlighted players and your shit players there, which everyone else was kind of just like up and down that period. And it just felt like a vintage Rangers period where they were inviting pressure in their own end. They weren't breaking the puck out. They were getting virtually no offensive zone pressure. And when they were, it was just along the perimeters. And the only positive I could say about it is that at least it was mostly the NHL guys that were standing out in that period, especially, again, Chytil and Cooley. And even VC had a couple of nice plays, but outside of that, a little shaky. And then we go to the third period. And how about Filipino yet again? Connor Mackey gets the puck out. Can you believe it? Filipino brings it up the ice and sets up Bleed to just throw one on goal. I think it went off the boards as well. It was so long ago, I don't remember. I'm like 90% sure it was a feed up the ice as I'm watching the video now to make sure that I'm not going crazy. And yeah, because it was Chytil that made the defensive play. Mackey breaks it up to him. Chytil just cuts through the neutral zone, a pass off the boards. Belzile just fires it on goal. I thought Sikora deflected that in at first, but Belzile gets the goal, and that made it 3-2, and the Rangers held on because Dylan Garon yet again looked unbelievable. Connor Mackey at one point got beat bad in that period, and it set up a really good opportunity. I don't remember who it was on Boston. I'm not gonna remember who number 73 is on the Boston Bruins, but regardless, whoever it was beat Connor Mackey pretty bad, and it set up a very good opportunity. But Garon making blocker saves in there, making unbelievable glove saves, and he as well just looks so composed right now, and I love that. I absolutely love that, because if there's somebody that I think has a chance of getting called up this year, Dylan Garon's one of them. And obviously, knock on wood with what it could be correlated to, but I'm hoping that's because of the fact that he's just pushing for an NHL spot this year, which we'll see, because Jonathan Quick's up there in age, and it's always something to keep an eye on. But yeah, and then it just felt like the Rangers were back at it again with not being able to bury the empty netter. So vintage hockey there, Rangers hockey there. Third period, a lot more standouts, though. I thought Chytil, yet again, Chytil the entire game, the most consistent player. Victor Mancini, one of the other consistent players. Will Cooley, consistent. Garan, looked great. I thought Grohl had a solid third period, and I think Grohl is honestly going to be a nice little piece for them if he needs to play in a pinch, which, again, I don't know how many times that's going to happen. I hope they don't have to dig that deep into the depth chart, but I thought Grohl, for what it's worth, had a solid game. I thought he played mean a couple of times as well and had a couple of good shifts out there. Schneider, thought he rebounded well in the third period after a pretty rough second period. Othman started to get a lot more scoring chances in that third period. There was that one chance, I forget who set him up, but it was either Brodzinski or VC because they were playing with them, but there was a feed from behind the net right to him, right on a platter in front of the net, where he had the opportunity to bury one, and I want to see him bury those. I really do, but I thought Othman played a way better third period. I thought the third period was their best period as a whole, just as a team. And then VC as well played good, especially on the penalty kill for him, which good to see because he's going to be doing that on a regular basis. So you want to see him thrive. But yeah, the third period was their best period easily. They were getting more offensive zone pressure. They played a bit better in their D zone, sort of, because again, the shit list was the same names from the previous periods. And then I threw Jake Lecision on there because couple rough mistakes from him, and then Capo Caco I threw on the list because he just didn't play a good game. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to go too ballistic here because I learned my lesson with Lafreniere last year, so I'm not going to go absolutely ape shit on Caco the way I did with Lafreniere last year, because I've learned my lesson and I have matured from that. I'm a better man from that. But regardless, for what it's worth tonight at least, Caco showed me that he looks like, yet again, on his line, he could be the weakest link. And to that, I don't love it. I don't love it for a guy that is supposed to be helping drive play a bit and that you would want from your number 2 overall pick to control play a lot of the time. He didn't do a lot of that again. And to get outplayed by a couple of guys in the lineup that don't look like they're even going to play in the NHL, like he got outplayed by guys like Bleed. I thought Grohl had a better game than him. I thought, Belzile was a little more noticeable at times. There are a couple of guys that just were really more noticeable, and especially against the Bruins team that did not throw out anywhere close to their best. I really thought, this was an opportunity for Caco to shine, and he didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And I don't love it. I don't love it. We'll see what happens, because at the end of the day, he's going to get the chance in the regular season. And let's hope that this is the Lafreniere thing somehow, where he's just terrible in the preseason and then he lights it up in the regular season. I would love nothing more than that. But for what it's worth tonight, he was really not great. And I don't love that. I really don't, because this is somebody that is in his 6th year. He needs to be way more noticeable than that. And by the way, with Brian Othman, I do want to pivot back to him because I don't know how I forgot to mention what happened. So in the first period, he throws a freaking brutal hit on Parker Wotherspoon, and then he comes back in the game. And at the end of the second period, they end up getting into a brawl, and you have Wotherspoon just like hitting his head into the ice, which was just ridiculous. Even Sam Rosa was annoyed about it, which I don't love the hit that Othman threw in that first period. I'll be honest. I thought that should have been an interference penalty, but I don't think it's right. I don't think 2 wrongs make a right there for what Wotherspoon did to Brennan Othman at the end of the second period there. But yeah, I thought either way, I like to see Brennan Othman play mean, even though, again, I want to see him play a little bit better offensively, because he's someone that I'd really love to just be more of a middle 6 guy versus developed into a 4th line guy. But if he becomes that, he becomes that at this rate. Like, it is what it is. You take what you get. But yeah, overall, the good, Garand, Domingue looked great tonight, especially with how much pressure they had to face at times, especially high danger looks. It feels like at least they faced a lot of high danger looks. I don't know if, what's it called? Why am I forgetting the website name right now? I'm really forgetting, what's it called? Natural Stat Trick. Why did I forget Natural Stat Trick for a minute? I don't know if they had the high danger chances listed for tonight. They did. Look at that. Look at Natural Stat Trick on it tonight. Yeah, 9 high danger chances for the Bruins. That seems about right, and 11 total. But at 5v5, there was 9. The Rangers had 5 high danger chances the entire game, and yeah, it pretty much backs up the eye test if you look at natural stat trick. The third period, the first and third period were the Rangers' better periods. I thought the third period was better than, although their scoring chances were the best in the third. So yeah, it matches the eye test about that on natural stat trick. So at least I know at least I know I'm in mid-season form a bit here. At least I know that I'm ready to go for the regular season when it comes to analyzing these games. So I'll give myself a bit of a pat on the back there. But yeah, I just felt that they did good with the pressure they faced. Thought Grohl was solid for the most part. Brodzinski, maybe you want a little bit more. Kakko, again, disappointing. Bleed, I thought good. VC, up and down. Sakura, I think with Sakura, because I do want to touch on him because he's probably going to be a popular topic amongst Ranger fans just because he's a second-round pick and he was their first pick in that draft. I think he needs to put on a bit more muscle because he was getting beat on a couple of loose pucks and beaten a couple of board battles. I think if he gets a little more muscle on him, I think that he's going to be a dangerous threat at some point, but still not a terrible game from him. But yeah, Will Cooley, good stuff. Filipino, unbelievable. And the defense outside of Schneider and Mancini, it was just not good. It wasn't great. But let's get to the chat. Or before I do need to quickly answer something here. So I will do that and then I will get to the chat. But you guys could fire questions. You guys could fire in your thoughts and everything. Let me know everything. I want to hear from you guys. All right. Sorry. Let's get to you guys. Anthony, what's going on? New season. We are Barack. Yes, we are. For a mostly rookie game, that was a solid 58-minute effort. I don't know if I agree with that. I thought the second period was rough, but I do agree that, you know, they played fine. Like, they played fine for the most part. I'm not going to ridicule the kids for everything like I would if this was a regular game where I would be... I mean, if the Rangers themselves played the second period they did, if the regular team played that type of second period in the regular season, I'd be ripping them to shreds right now. I could promise you that. And you guys know it. Puck Rock, what's going on? How you doing? One word, Chytil. Yeah. What's going on? Do I think this is the redemption season? I don't know. We'll see. It's only preseason. Can't really say much on that. No, it's only one game, but Garang looked good. If he keeps it up, it may make Drury's decision to not give in the Igor's demands easier. I don't think he's going to give in the Igor's demands because I'm at a point where don't we think a contract would have been done if he was going to just give him whatever he wanted? Like, don't we think that? Maybe that's just me. And maybe that's just me trying to hold out hope that they're not going to make the bad decision of paying him 13 million or 12 million, whatever it may be. But I don't know. Like in Mancini, you and I both, James. Last year, we only won one preseason game and then had a great regular season. Very lightly is how we should take these games. I agree with that. I agree. After last season, I learned my lesson. Also, they won one last year? Damn, I completely forgot about that because, yeah, the game at UBS, they almost came back and won that one. Oh, yeah, they beat the Islanders, I think, in the opener of that preseason game because Kakko looked great in that one. And then I think they lost the rest. Yeah, that sounds about right because the Devils went like undefeated last year. And how did that go for them? I don't know if Mancini's going to be a full-timer, but if he plays this way, he's going to make it very difficult for management to start him in Hartford or, he's going to make it difficult to not get a call up at some point. Mancini may give Jones a run for his roster spot. And I hope that's the case, honestly. I hope management's like telling Zach Jones that, because I want Zach Jones to come into, I want him to come into camp. I want him to come into these preseason games and look like a man on a mission to win that roster spot. Quite frankly, if we were in a great world, Mancini and Jones would just be the third pair, honestly, and then Trouba would just be out of the lineup. But fortunately, that's not the world we live in. But I would love that. There's nothing better than competition. And yeah, he looked like he had a rocket strapped to him. He looked so good, man. I'm actually not surprised Chytil played well. My only concern with him is staying healthy, which I pray he does, because this team is going to need his production. I was a little surprised he played well just because it's been so long. Like, how many times did we talk about here that rust with the kid, you know, rust? There was going to be some sort of time where it was going to take him a bit to get conditioned for actual games. And for him to look like he's ready to go for the regular season from preseason game 1, huge good sign, huge positive sign. But yeah, health is obviously still a concern, because I think I speak for every Ranger fan. Anytime he took a hit today, my heart dropped to the floor. Othman looked good. He needs to find the back of the net. I agree with that. Johnny Brodzinski better not be out there on day 1. I don't know if he will. I mean, apparently Laviolette's loving what Brett Berard's doing in camp, and if that means anything, then that could open up a different conversation here. We shouldn't be raving about Chytil's performance because of the competition. We should be raving about it because he was flying up the ice and looked confident with his health, which is big. Yes, and that's the biggest thing too, because I thought that he would play scared too, because again, it's his first game back, like outside of the playoffs, of course, but I think this was more of an actual first game back, because the playoffs did not replicate what he is. It really didn't. My only real gripe is that I wanted to see more from Othman offensively. Maybe they need to put him with better line mates. I agree with that. I think that playing him with VC and Brodzinski is just not the right decision. 3 things I loved about Mancini's game. He's composed on the puck. Talked about that before. Yeah. He puts the puck on net. Love that too. And he's good at separating the body from the puck. Yes, his gap control was so good tonight. He did everything right. Like, anything and everything you could want from a defenseman, he did right. And again, his skating for his size, like, really impressed me. But let's see. Agree with taking the preseason with a grain of salt, but Kakko looks slow tonight against mainly AHLers. It's a little concerning considering his reputation. Yeah, and again, if it ends up being the Lafreniere thing, again, I'm not going to sit here and complain, but, you know, it's not a good first impression, especially when you're making $2.1 million, you're on the final year of your deal, and there's been rumors for years now, potentially, of you getting traded, and you almost got traded at the deadline. Don't you want to show something to management? Because at least with Lafreniere last year, you know, the Rangers never, like, threatened to trade him. Like, how many times did Chris Drury say, no, we never were going to trade him? We never were. Kakko, there's been substance of trades before, potentially, and it's not a good look. It's really not a good look that he's not going out there and showing management that, yeah, you got to keep me around. Sakura bulked up a ton. I mean, maybe he's just learning how to use his body then more, like, because that's something I thought I heard about him bulking up, because I think I remember somebody said he gained like 10 pounds. He might want to put on a little bit more. Either that or he just needs to, like, learn how to use his body, because I don't think he played that physical. And I want to address this comment because of the fact that this gets, you know, there's a I don't know the word I'm looking for, but regardless, there's a disconnect from what I mean with paying Igor that much money and if he deserves it, because he deserves the money. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the money, but for the spot the Rangers are in financially, I just still don't feel it's the right decision. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about the contract talk anymore. I'm going to treat it like the Rangers are. At this point, if something gets done by the season, then fine, it is what it is. But I'm not going to address it really until there's a reason to. Thoughts on the power play tonight? I thought the power play was good. With Mancini quarterbacking it, they had a couple of like quality opportunities. I don't think Brodzinski looked good up there, and I thought they should have put Othman there, and I don't know why, especially when you should be giving him the best looks possible when he's fighting to make the team. Like, really make him show you, but they didn't do it. I don't want to get there yet, but I'm getting there. What's going on, Random? Thoughts on Mancini and Louis and Chytil played their heart out, and you notice Chytil played 3 minutes last shift, and I think Mancini will come up to the blue line if someone gets hurt. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think all those guys looked very good tonight. I agree with you. When do I think we'll see more of the regulars in the preseason? I think we'll see more of them either in Tuesday's game or the game after, because as more guys get cut, and then on top of that, typically it feels like the Rangers like to play their regulars more during the home preseason games, just because, you know, you want to give your better looks in front of the home crowd. But, which, by the way, I found hilarious. Speaking of preseason games and teams starting the regulars, what the hell were the Toronto Maple Leafs doing starting literally every regular in their lineup pretty much? Like, that was nuts. Sorry about that. So Rainey scored. Good for him. Good for Macklin. Who is he playing with? Is he playing with Will Smith? So that'd be cool to see. Yeah, there's a big difference between Igor deserving the money and if it's worth giving him the money. I agree with that. The Maple Leafs play. Yeah. They looked in mid-season form, at least, right? I think after the first period, they had just one shot on goal, too, which is just like, seriously? You got all your regulars in going against the Ottawa Senators, and they lost to them. Those Ottawa Senators, man, look out for them, maybe. Well, it's not a good look if that means anything for my predictions with the Leafs. But they're learning a new system, so it is what it is, kind of, with them. So, but this isn't a Leafs channel. I'll move on. Yeah, I saw Utah scored on their own net. Yes, I agree. Centers and defensemen, I would add to that, win cups. And this is my point, too, with the whole pay Igor whatever thing. You could win cups with an elite goalie, but you're not going to win a cup because of an elite goalie. There's a very big difference. And with the way the Rangers would be handing a contract to Igor, they're pretty much saying, you're the guy, and you got to lead us to a cup. And you can't do that. You just can't. And everyone points to Florida, but it's like, Mike Bartner tweeted this, and it's just like, follow the Florida model. Simple. Find 3 guys off of waivers that produce for you. Sign 2 or 3 guys for like $3 million on the free agent market that will be key contributors. Trade basically nothing for a second line center, and then go win a cup. Like, there's the way Florida won last year with the way they built their roster. Nobody can replicate that. Nobody can. That's why Bill Zito, you got to give that guy his flowers, because the way he built that team, man, I could only dream of a GM that would do that. At least in hockey, because a certain somebody right now. I mean, a certain somebody has my love right now, right? I know. We're talking about Rangers. I'm sorry. I know that Florida will lose those guys, but they won the cup. Almost seems like Lavi is pulling out one out of Gallant's book of over-relying on seniority instead of trying the youth. Broad should have been on power play too. If that, I hope he's just trying things and not being Gallant 2.0. I agree with that, and that's where I do worry if maybe they are going to give a look to Brodzinski more than we'd like this year. So again, I said in my preview that I really think people are downplaying how much Laviolette loves Brodzinski and how much of a look Brodzinski's going to get. And now we might be seeing it firsthand, unfortunately, but it's not with Celerini, Toffoli, and Costin. Really? Interesting. Maybe be too hard on Johnny Broadway. I digress. I don't think you're being too hard on him. I just think that you're... Pause. I just think that you're telling it how it is, that, you know, there are guys that should be ahead of him on the depth chart, and there are guys that deserve the looks because you know what Johnny Brodzinski is, right? You know what he is at this point. A guy that could play well in a pinch, but you don't want him playing an extended amount of games for you. But you want to give the younger guys a chance, is what it comes down to. Bennett makes 4.25. Forsling at 5 is a steal. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to replicate what they did. Not hard. It's just impossible. It's literally impossible to do it. Richard, what's going on? Thank you. And yeah, hopefully a good season. Edstrom, Sakura, Othman, Berard over Brodzinski. I don't know about Sakura, but I agree with the first three. Think anyone we signed to a PTO stick around. Maybe Bowie on an AHL contract, but I don't think Ernie's gonna stick around. Shut the fuck up, Joe. I was like, who the fuck is this? But now I remember that's you. And knowing with fishing with Earl. Get a flow check. Well, like you want to see the full flow? Need me to do a 360 for you? I mean, I'll do anything for you. Pause. Fox Sports Outdoors. So fucking stupid. Please. You want the flow check that bad? So all your teams won today. How are you celebrating? I'm not going to celebrate too much because, I mean, the only win I'm really celebrating is the Mets because the Eagles look like dog shit, to be honest with you, despite winning. And then, you know, the Mets was the most important one. This was just a preseason win. Voice crack there. Bad. Jeez. Win. It was a preseason win, so I'm not going to go bombarding the streets over this, but it's nice on the days that all my teams win. I'll tell you that. Joe wants to cuddle. So do I. I mean, I'm with it. All right, this is getting ridiculous. Oh, Wingstop cheese sauce. All right. Before this gets ridiculous, I'm going to wrap it up. We've been going for 40 minutes, which is ridiculous itself for a preseason game. But that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tuesday will be either the night of, but very late, or it's going to be it's going to be the next day, the stream, just because of the fact that, the next day I'm not going to be around all day. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out because I'm going to have to DVR the game and then watch it later on because the Mets are playing the most important series of the season, and I'm going to be glued to the TV for that. So I will have to, unfortunately, delay the stream for the Islander game recap. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live next. And I'll see you guys in the next one.